Hey everybody. So here we are. What is this, our fourth week? This is our fourth week, right?
Yep.
So welcome back after a long weekend. How was that? Catherine and I were chatting about the weekend. I was grumpy as all get out on Sunday and I had no good reason. It's fun when you have a reason, but I didn't have a reason. And so I'll talk a little bit about what I was doing and how I was getting myself through that. And a couple of things for topics are to, again, go back to paying attention. Are you really hungry? Hunger symptoms for me are usually physical. So that means that it's a growling in my stomach. When my stomach is growling, I know I'm on the right track. If I start getting lightheaded, if I start getting brain fog, if I start getting trembles, then I know I've gone too far, and that's a sugar issue. Still saying that I'm hungry. It's just that it's, for me, not the right kind of signal that I want. So, and it's not getting up hungry either. I want to clarify that. It doesn't mean that you go to bed hungry either. It's not going to help you sleep. And that's one of the topics I want to talk about today. And I'll talk a little bit.
What about headaches?
What's that?
Sorry. What about headaches? Last week I had headaches for several days, and I didn't know if that was a sign of you cutting
hunger.
back.
Yep. It could very well be a sign of hunger. It could be a blood sugar drop. So, and sometimes depending on how far off my program I've been, that's what comes first. And then the growling in my stomach comes later, a few days or sometimes a week later. So yeah, you might want to investigate or consider a food diary to see what you're eating, and that might be causing that. Headaches are also a sign of sensitivities to foods. So, and I get like it's almost like a closing of my throat, but I'm not breathing. That makes sense. So in other words, I'm breathing still and breathing freely, but there's this tightness in my throat. That's an allergic reaction for me. And so when I have that, then I know that there's something I just ate I'm sensitive to. It doesn't mean that I'm allergic to it. I'm sensitive to it. And so pay attention to your body signals. So you might be having some kind of sensitivity to whatever you're eating. It could be that you're not eating enough. Depending on the program you're on, if you're on a low carb program, you might not be getting enough fat. So again, it just depends on what program you're on. If you're on a calorie program, people still do that, then you might not be getting enough calories. Calories should come from protein. Proteins get, hi Laura, it's going to keep you satisfied. And I know Deborah's trying to make it on. So,
can you see me?
I can't see you.
That's weird. I was sitting there forever. I thought you were just late. Okay.
Well, I thought I put you in and then you disappeared. So I don't know what's happening with technology tonight. So I was just talking about, we're talking about symptoms of physical hungry, and Catherine was saying about headaches. So headaches could be a signal that you're hungry. Could be that you're not, if you're doing low carb, you're not getting enough fat. If you're doing a low calorie, you're probably not getting enough protein. So this is when a food journal, I am not a big proponent of food journals. It made me feel guilty when I did it. I mean, I know what I ate that day. Now I can't tell you what I ate yesterday, but I can tell you what I've eaten today. And so I can go back through, oh, there you are, outside even. So I can go back through the day and kind of look backwards and see, did I eat too much? Now, another thing too with low carb is if you eat too much protein, it will add fat. It will actually make you gain weight, which is really bizarre. So it's kind of one of those things, if you're counting macros, if you're counting your proteins, your fats, carbohydrates, then if you're eating too much protein, you will gain weight without eating all the fun stuff. So I have to keep an eye on that. So it just depends on what program you're on. But if you're getting headaches, you're probably either one, sensitive to something you ate. And remember, that could be something healthy. So it could be bell peppers, it could be broccoli, just that you're sensitive to it. It also could be something like, for me, it's any dairy product I'm sensitive to. And what that does is it causes, this is going to be gross, that phlegmy feeling, when you have a cold. So that's what it causes for me. Tightness in my throat, as I was talking about earlier, that dairy will do that for me too. Watermelon will do that for me too, right? So watermelon, used to eat tons of it because it was low calorie and low fat, no fat. I always got that tightness in my throat right after I ate it, which means I'm sensitive to it. I haven't eaten it since. But I can eat watermelon flavored or drink watermelon flavored drinks, which is really interesting. So you have to pay attention to what your body signals are. And for me, getting to that physical hunger, growling in my stomach, which comes on very slowly, is the way I know that I'm eating just the right amount of calories to burn fat. So I was talking about sensitivities and sleep. And so one of the things to be watching is, are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting too much sleep? Sleep is very important to the brain. And it is also important in our hormonal balance, and not only just estrogen and the feminine hormones, for everything in our body. So without enough sleep, you do tend to I want to say cortisol, but that's not it. That's what we painted, what the bar was painted in before we painted it. Cortisol. That's what I meant. Cortisol. So your cortisol goes high, and that will make you gain weight. A lot of people who go on CPAP machines, one of the things the doctors tell them is you'll lose weight if you start getting better sleep. I haven't seen it as like, just melts off, but that's one of the things they tell you because it will create weight gain. So paying attention to your sleep hygienes. And what does that mean? I think I talked a little bit about this earlier. Turn off televisions, blue lights, don't read your phone before you go to bed. Some people like sleep masks. I don't like them. Some people like something over their ears. I don't care for that either. So it's just however makes you feel comfortable. A colder room is more preferred. In Florida, that's impossible, but that's beside the point this time of year. And then the other thing I want to chat about today is the pleasure principle. And sexual pleasure is, awesome. Yes, and let's do that. But I'm talking more of allowing yourself pleasure, sweetness, other than food. What are you doing for yourself? How are you taking care of yourself? When are you saying no to that urge or craving to get something to eat, even when you know you're not hungry? That is a loving yourself enough to say no. You would do that to a child. To discipline a child, you would say no. And we don't do that enough to ourselves in a loving way. We do it in a judgmental criticism way. And so this afternoon, I kept thinking I wanted something to eat, and my answer was no. I knew I wasn't fit. First question is always, am I physically hungry? No. And it's like, no, I'm not having something to eat. And then, so it was a kind of discipline to myself. The other part of that is doing things for yourself. So reading for 5 minutes, moving, exercising, yoga, doing something for yourself 5 minutes, but being on the list. Most of us aren't even on the list. Taking care of ourselves, doing something that you enjoy doing. For a long time when I lived in Richmond, a girlfriend and I once a month on a Saturday, we took a vacation day together. And so we just take a road trip somewhere. And I think one time we tried to get down to that ice cream shop in Norfolk, that famous one, Dumar's. And the traffic was so bad that we couldn't get down there. We turned around. We went to see plantations. We just did little day trips, nothing big. And it was fun, just the two of us. No expectation other where are we going. There was really no plans if we'd been in that town or not where to eat for lunch. We just it was just kind of winging it. It was the most incredible experience because it was just us doing us things and not having to worry about anybody else. So we all need those kind of breaks and breaks away from other people. I do. I'm highly sensitive and an introvert, so I need those times away. We get addicted to misery. And it seems like an odd choice, but it really is a choice. We get addicted to feeling sad. We get addicted to feeling depressed. Sad and depressed are two different things. We get to feeling jealous, to being angry. Like I said, this weekend I was grumpy on Sunday. No real good reason, none. I had no good reason why to be grumpy. I just was. And it was one of those things that was hard to shake. I was tapping for it. I was doing my, most people would call it a prayer type of thing for it, trying to get in alignment with the divine. But when you're grumpy, that's really kind of hard to do. So but what I know is that when you're in those states, one, there's nothing wrong with it. Two, it's just telling you what you don't want, more of what you don't want. So it's a good contrast. And three, just feeling a little bit better is all you need to do. So I would go from angry to just upset. And then I would go up to I'm okay. And then I would go to some other lower vibrational emotion. And then I would work my way back up again. I was doing that all day, which sounds exhausting, and it really can be. However, I knew that if I stayed in that place, it would result in it taking longer for me to get out of it. And so know that one, it's okay to feel those feelings. I didn't even know why. I mean, I really could try to figure it out and pinpoint it. I had no idea why. I had some speculation, but I wasn't really sure why. And so don't blame yourself for that either. If you don't know why, then it's okay. Did it mean I'm addicted to misery? Not really. What it meant, I was just having a grumpy day, like we all do. But addicted to misery is keep going down the same pattern over and over and over again. Like Einstein said, that's a symptom of being a little bit crazy. So that's where the pattern starts. And we get caught up in it too. And our other people in our lives get us caught up into it. So here's my favorite saying when I get into those type of situations where I'm just trying to get a little bit better or trying to dissolve what's going on, or the discipline of it. And it's the statement, I am no longer willing. I am no longer willing to go down that path. Sometimes it's a thought pattern, that thought pattern of, I'm not worth it. This is crazy. I don't know what's going on. Or I'm not willing to go down that feeling pattern when I'm around this person. I'm just no longer willing to do it. They can continue to do whatever they want to do. They can say whatever they want to say, but I am no longer willing to go down that path. And that gives you strength, it gives you power, because now you've taken that power that you've given away, you've taken it back, and you can start utilizing that in a way that feels powerful rather than somebody taking away your power. And what's very interesting too is this addiction to misery. You want to blame everybody. And that's what I found out on Saturday. I was grumpy. I wanted to blame my husband. He didn't do anything wrong. He's just being him. I wanted to blame our son. He's not doing anything wrong. He's just being him. I mean, it's just, I wanted to blame my mother. I wanted to blame, you want to go through the blame game, and there's no one to blame. So it's really it was an interesting Sunday, to say the least. I was also working in the 100+ degree heat for a good part of the day. But by the afternoon, I pretty much got myself out of it. And then Monday was an awesome day as we spent some time outside working as well. So, and had family over that evening. So those are my words of wisdom. So I want to hear celebrations. What do we have that we can celebrate?
I have one.
All right, Laura.
Went to a Mexican restaurant with a friend. You know how they put the little chips and salsa right in front of you? I had 3, maybe 4 chips, and that was after the meal, just to get that out of my mouth. I was like, ooh, wow. So.
It's awesome. Yay. That's awesome. Isn't it funny too how things we thought we used to love we don't like anymore?
Right. And then I'm going to get a little bit personal here for a second.
All right, you have to get a little closer to your mic though, because I can't hardly hear you.
Me neither.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to get a little bit personal. 2 out of 3 of you know my son passed away. I went back and I listened to your last week's thing in the Hawaiian prayer. So I have made this my, let's see if I can get it up.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
It
You
says,
just went black, but I got it. It's a picture of him with a prayer.
It is. It's the I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. And it was from me to him saying, I'm sorry, forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody looked at it and they took it as he was saying that to me. And I went, oh, wow.
Oh,
So it's kind of it goes both ways. But that's my screensaver now.
love it. Thank you. Anyone else?
That's great. I made it through pizza night.
I was going to ask. Yay.
It was delicious, and I didn't feel bad.
Good.
I like savored every little chew, you know? And it wasn't
Yay.
even like the best pizza in the world, but it was delicious.
You know, and how fun is it that you can say that,
Yeah.
right? In the past, you would have felt guilty about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
I've met several naturally thin people in my life, but the first one that I remember, it was a coworker. Most of them have been coworkers, and she was super skinny. I mean, probably a size 0, maybe a size 1, and she was engaged, and her fiance took her to, remember those Ryan steakhouses that had the giant bread and the buffet salad bar and stuff. And she and he went to dinner and they had steak, and she talked about the meal for about an hour. And I would have been just so shameful of everything I ate. I would have maybe said, oh, it was great. She really talked about the meal for on and off for an hour. And that's what naturally thin people do, because they didn't feel guilty about what they were eating. And so that's the difference in how delicious it was and filling it was. I mean, it was really fascinating to watch her talk about her story. When I was thinking the whole time, I would be so ashamed and embarrassed that I ate that much food.
So I made it through pizza night too with only 2 pieces.
There you go. All right.
I didn't eat the crust, so.
Yay. Anyone else? Celebrations? No? All right, challenges. So it's been a long weekend. And often that is challenging to us chronic dieters, because there's parties or there's alone time or you name it, we can create an excuse to go eat no matter what.
I have a question.
Okay.
Let's see, how do you put it? I notice when I'm eating, I eat until I might eat. Obviously, I'm eating past satisfied because I don't get full until after I finish. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so full. How do you judge that better when to stop?
Great question. And that was the most difficult part of all of this for me. It was to determine when I was satisfied. And it took me several months. I'm not going to lie to you. It was 6 months or longer. And so sometimes it's just playing with the amount of food you have and cutting it back. So before you even get started, think about how much you're putting on your plate. Because if you're still hungry, you can get more. Right. So start with a little bit, and if you still want a little bit more is fine. So my thing I think I shared with everyone is I had a voice in my head that would tell me I had enough. You were talking about how you sigh. So sometimes it's paying attention to what our body's telling us. The food doesn't taste quite as great. There has really been a study that if you take 3 bites of the same food, you will lose your appetite for it after the 3rd bite. Your sensitivity will decrease. That's why it's so fun to have a plate full of food, so you can eat all kinds of food and you don't get tired of it. So sometimes it's just a matter of being conscious and saying, okay, I'm going to cut back on whatever, your mashed potatoes or your steak or whatever, and see if that keeps you satisfied for a while rather than full. And it gets to the point when you just really don't like the full feeling anymore.
I don't.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to encourage you to stop eating sooner. if you think about, well, what's the consequences of this? And I'm going to feel overstuffed.
Okay.
Don't you think though that part of it? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
The green line wasn't around me, so I wasn't sure if it was on. Is for our whole life for me, and you know, pretty much, it's almost like you eat unconsciously. So you're in a social situation, and if you have any ADD at all, you know, it's like all this other stuff is going on, and you're eating, but you're paying attention to everything else, so you're not given the focus sometimes to listening to your body or your stomach or paying. Now you can control how much you put on your plate, like you said, but you might be full even before you finish that. So it's like, in those situations, it's like, I mean, I still find myself going, why did I eat that? I mean, it's like I didn't even really want it, you know.
And then you add alcohol to that, and they're.
Well, maybe you do, Laura, but
Hi, Deb. Come on now.
Well, I have to admit, I'm having a glass of wine right now.
yeah, well, so am I.
Because I've had such a stressful several days, and I thought I was kicking off this program like really well, and I was really excited because I didn't feel like I was eating that much. And then I started getting this horrible headache, and I had it for 3 or 4 days, and it would not stop. And I really thought I was getting sick, like I was having a summer cold, or I even thought, well, maybe I'm getting COVID because the headache was horrible. So you know what I did? I mean, I can't even believe I'm admitting this, but I'm just going to say it. Like, I had this horrible headache, and I'm like, I must be missing sugar. And I was so stressed out and was so frustrated. I went and got a Reese's cup, you know, the 2-pack, and a little thing of like gummy bear things. And that made me feel worse, not better. And the headache continued. And then on Saturday, I felt just so sluggish and so awful. And I have no problem with sleeping. I sleep 8 to 10 hours every night. I'm pretty lucky when it comes to that. But I felt so awful on Saturday that I slept from 1:30 until 7:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Wow.
Woke up once, like at 3:30, and said, okay, where am I and what's going on here? Went back to sleep, and I was like convinced that I was getting COVID or something. So paranoid me went and took a COVID test on Sunday. Of course, immediately felt better after I took the test, and it felt better ever since then. But anyway, my body was going through something really, really weird, and I don't know if that I wasn't eating enough or what, but you guys are celebrating some nice wins, but I was having somewhat of wins until the headache, and then I kind of crashed and burned. So I'm trying to pick up again.
Yeah, and so that's true. Could be not eating enough. It could be that the diet was the program you went on was too rigid. So there is really, truthfully, what's called the keto flu. And I've seen it on other programs that I've been on in with people. One of them, you did vegetables for I think 11 days plus a protein shake, and then you added meat to it. And you would see that during that program too. The detox would actually create a miserable feeling of headaches and nausea and sluggishness. So it could be that too. Could be a little detox going on. So there's a whole lot of things only you can answer that. You know what you thought it might be that could have been going on. So reality is holidays are going to happen. Parties like the pizza party that they went to is going to happen. So part of it is making a conscious decision before you go into it. What are you going to do? How much you're going to eat? There's going to be times when you are sideswiped and you're going to go the next day, what the heck did I just do? And so it's all about forgiveness and without judgment. It's not about saying, well, I've blown it. I go ahead and do that and start again on Tuesday. Or I've blown it and I'm just going to eat whatever I want until next Monday. That's what it's not about. That's old behavior and that's old way of thinking. So it's about getting back on now. So you might have blown it in the afternoon and you get back on at dinner time. And I don't like the on and off terms. However, you all understand what I mean. Because I think that puts us into judgment mode when we're either on a diet or off a diet. And it puts us also into it's okay. I'm off the diet now. Actually heard some young women say this. And it hurt my heart because at that age, they shouldn't have that mentality, I'm on or off a diet, or I need to starve myself to get into that dress. It was real heartbreaking. So that kind of behavior is something that we can stop as well. That's I'm no longer willing to put up with. On or off a diet. Food is just food. Are there more healthier foods? Yes. Goes back to your belief systems. What do you believe is healthy? Do you believe low calorie is healthy? It's going to be. Do you believe low carb is healthy? It's going to be. Do you believe that eating all vegetables is healthy? It's going to be. Which includes sweet potatoes and potatoes, but when you're on low carb, you don't eat sweet potatoes. So it just depends on what you believe is healthy for you. And even the banana cream pie that I shared with my husband at lunch today was yummy and wouldn't have missed it for the world. Was it healthy? It could be. If I believed it was, it could be. It had bananas in it, although I don't eat bananas because I'm low carb. So I think butter was the only thing that was on the low carb diet in that whole pie for the pie crust.
But it's your anniversary.
Exactly. Exactly. And Labor Day was Labor Day. So what is Labor Day? It's usually barbecues and family or, fun or something. So what I'm saying, I guess the whole message of all of this is stop the judgment, stop the criticism, stop beating yourself up. You're okay. Do a little bit better. Just like I was doing on Sunday, I was trying to feel a little bit better rather than being angry. And rather than blaming somebody, I was trying to say, okay, what am I grateful for about them? Instead of focusing on, and that's where the misery addiction comes to. It's a focus on, and then it continues you down the pathway. But if you can switch out of it just for a moment or two, and that's the best you can do, then you've done well. And that's what the whole message of this is that feel better about yourself. Take care of yourself in a different way than you may have. Give yourself some time, that pleasure principle, of course. And food is pleasurable, it always will be. They're not going to take the taste out of food. They're always trying to enhance it, make us more addicted to it, so they can sell more. So it's not going away. It's having it's like a responsibility, the responsibility for ourselves to say, okay, I can choose to have that, or I can choose not to. I can think about going into that party, and Deb and I had those conversations about what are we going to do? What's the options? And what's the consequences? Does that mean not having it? No. Over the course of your lifetime of losing weight, 2-3 pieces of pizza is not going to have a whole toll on it. Will you gain some weight? Yes. Why? Water weight, for one, for sure. The body's going, what the hell is this? Because you haven't been eating it for a while. So it's trying to figure out what to do with it and how to process it. It's physical, it's not emotional. It's not that you did anything wrong. So if I can give you one hope, that's the hope that I hope to give everyone in this class, is that you're not broken. You don't have to be fixed. No matter what your voice in your head is telling you, no matter who is telling that voice. And sometimes it's people who are even passed away that's still telling us those voices in our head that no longer have room for rent in our heads, and you can evict them at any time. And the worst case is usually ourselves, trying to keep ourselves in the prison of that person. So we are beating ourselves up. Somebody who beat up on us when we were kids, and it could be physical, emotionally is mostly. It could have been all kinds of people. It could have been parents, it could have been teachers, it could have been anybody in our life who beat up on us, or we took that and then we continue to beat up on ourselves. And that's got to stop. We're only carrying on their legacy. Questions or comments?
I think for me, I know I've made progress and stuff, but then it's like I'll do something and unconsciously, say, and then think about it after. And I'm like, I should be better than this by now. It's like, it's still judgment, and it's still, I've been doing this for quite a while now. How long is this going to take? It's like, yes, I'm making progress, but, is it ever? And then I know you say it never ends. You're always making progress. But when am I going to get to that point where at least I'm at my goal weight and I'm still making progress, And so it's the impatience, I guess, with myself.
It is the impatience with yourself. And when you get to the goal weight, we've talked about this, you're not at the end.
Yeah.
That's the worst misconception ever. When I get to my goal weight, I don't have to do this anymore and I can eat whatever I want. And that is not true. I am always tweaking my food. I'm always looking at, is that too much? I'm always looking at, and it's not a but it's not a judgment. It's not like a fully focused, it's all that my attention, gets. It's not that. It's just, I look at that and like, well, can I cut that in half? Would that be enough? Or let me start with this amount. I ate too much. That was kind of silly. But there's no judgment around it anymore. It's just like, okay, well, I can decide to eat my next meal or not. It's totally up to me, but I'm not saying I can't have my next meal in the past like I used to as punishment for what I just did.
Right.
And so that is progress, and you will always be on a somewhat conscious space about changes and how do you tweak it, and what makes you feel a little bit better, and if I add this exercise, will I get a little bit stronger in my core? You're always going to be asking it because you want more. Our DNA is basically created to want more. That's how we survived. If we just got lazy and stayed in the cave, whatever your thought process is, we wouldn't be existing because we wouldn't have any reason to live. And so as a human species, we always want more. For a lot of us, that means more food. So, we kind of chose food as that more rather than, and this is the scary part, we chose food over being more of ourselves, right? Asking more for things that we wanted, for speaking more of our truth, we choose food. For blaming and judging others for what was really our responsibility. What we wanted more was to feel fulfilled, to feel satisfied, to speak our truth, we want more of being who we want to be. We want more of the life that we want. And we trap ourselves with food to stay safe, because if you want more, that means you've got to put yourself out on a limb. If you want more, you have to be vulnerable. If you want more, you have to ask. If you want more, you're going to have to be seen. And that's scary for a lot of women. So we stay fat and we beat ourselves up and we keep ourselves trapped. And so our more comes through food rather than doing all those things. That's a sad note to leave on. Questions about that? I can tell you that every person that comes to me and says, I want to lose weight, that's not the real thing that they want. So ask yourselves this week, what do I really want? What do I want more of? That I've never allowed myself to even look at. And there's, I was talking with another client today, and she was in a state of feeling very vulnerable. And there's a TEDx speaker, her name is Brene Brown. Look her up, it's Renee spelled with a B, Brene Brown. She talks about vulnerability and how to use it as your strength. She actually is a researcher, so she's studied vulnerability, of all things to study. Very interesting how she looks at that. And being vulnerable means we're asking for what we want. And in the past, I almost guess every one of you who asked what you wanted was turned down, turned away, shunned, or were made to feel embarrassed. So take a look at her. She's got a couple TED Talks. Both of them are really good. And a couple really good books. So if you have any questions in the meantime, email me. You all have my email address. You can email me anytime you want to. Remember, you do have those 2 15-minute calls. You have to use them before this is over. So this is week 4. So you don't have, even my clients, they get those too. I hate it. You know, I hate it when they do those commercials and it says only for new customers. I'm like, well, screw you. I've been loyal to you for 20 years. Why? I get that too. So even those. So reach out to me so I can get you the link. If you don't see it in the
How do
group.
we schedule those?
What's that?
How do we schedule those?
I have a link. I'll send it to you.
Okay. I'm
I'll
sure I
send it
have
to
it
everybody
somewhere.
again.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, everyone. Have a great evening.
Have a good week. Thanks everybody
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
Yep, thank
Thank you.
you. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Right.